Think of all the devices you have in your home. Your television, your video games, your laptop, your smartphone. What is the purpose of them? And what actions are they drawing you toward? With modern streaming platforms, you can watch thousands of unique movies and shows. With a console or computer, you can play millions of online games. Finally, with a smartphone, you hold billions of hours of content in your pocket. Whether we know it or not, all these devices, these apps, these services have one simple purpose. On the outside, that purpose may be to inform you, entertain you, or simply to calm your nerves. But deep down, when you peel back all of the layers, these things are just webs in a world of distractions. We live in a deeply distracted world. The modern human spends 7 hours behind a screen, 2 hours on social media, and checks their phone more than 85 times a day. Workplace productivity is at an all-time low, and researchers say that the attention spans of young people are decreasing each year, having plateaued next to those of the past decade. It seems like no matter where you go, people are glued to their devices, oblivious to the world around them. Every moment is filled with stimulation, and the idea of boredom is a dreaded concept. In a sea of entertainment, information, memes, and short-form videos, distracting ourselves has never been easier. Focusing has never been harder, and I think it's important that we understand why. You might have heard of the brain chemical dopamine. You may know it as the feel-good or the pleasure chemical, triggered whenever we receive some kind of reward. But that isn't entirely true. Rather, dopamine is the motivating chemical. It doesn't trigger because of a reward, but instead anticipates one.
The Hamburglar is very clever and very sneaky. And he loves taking McDonald's hamburgers.
In Paleolithic times, it was the chemical that inspired our ancestors to chase down a wild animal or pick a ripe berry from a bush. Today, it's the chemical that motivates us to endlessly scroll Instagram, binge watch TV shows, or spend hours on video games. Despite this, dopamine is not a bad thing, as it is often portrayed in videos like this one. In fact, we should be thankful for it, as those who suffer from depression often lack the right amount of dopamine, and therefore have little motivation to do much of anything. Dopamine itself is not the problem. The problem is that it's been hijacked. This is Tristan Harris. After selling his company in 2011, he worked as an ethicist for Google for 3 years, and was an insider to Silicon Valley. In this 2018 60 Minutes interview, Harris warned the audience about something that 5 years later seems obvious. Social media is extremely addictive, and that's by design. I think something we're all aware of, even if we don't actively think about it, is that we aren't paying money to use any of these sites. Like, you're not sending a check to Facebook every month. Instead, that money is coming from advertisers, and your attention is the product. Tristan Harris is far from the only Silicon Valley insider to suggest that social media is intentionally made addictive. But even if he was, it only makes sense. The more time a person spends on a platform, the more ads they see, which means the more advertisers are willing to pay more money. These companies have a direct incentive to keep you on their sites for as long as possible. And with that structure of business model, it's hard to blame them. For this next segment, I'll be highlighting some of the tactics hidden in social media features that are used to keep you on their sites for as long as possible. I want to clarify though, that they are not the only industry using them. Variations of these strategies can be found everywhere from the gaming industry, to the television industry, to even the processed food industry. Another topic for another time. I want to focus on social media because that seems to be the main problem in the grand scheme of things. However, my hope is that after watching this, you'll be able to recognize and be cautious of these strategies throughout a wide range of fields. Alright, with that clarified, let's get into it. The year was 2006. George W. Bush was president, and both me and most modern internet sites were in their infancy. Back then, websites consisted of separate pages that users had to click between to navigate. It wasn't inconvenient, just messy, and those in Silicon Valley knew it could be better. That's where Azar Raskin comes in. Working as an interface designer, he created the solution. Instead of content being formatted in pages requiring a click, they were formatted infinitely, only needing the swipe of a finger to reveal more. Raskin claims his intention was simply to eliminate a choice the user would have made anyways. However, whether intentional or not, he had created a mental vortex that soon would be used by every major social platform for decades to come. But why is this so effective? How are we able to spend hours scrolling while time seems to slip away from us? Turns out psychologically, it's very similar to this: a slot machine. The first and most obvious parallel is the functionality. You can't help but notice the resemblance between swiping down on a phone screen and pulling the lever on a slot machine. The action is so incredibly easy, almost to the point where it doesn't feel like you've done anything. Your primal mind doesn't have a chance to catch up and process what you even did. Then, in an instant, the next video, the next spin. The similarities don't end there. Much like early humans discovering food or spotting prey, these devices send our reward systems firing. The only difference is that we are constantly anticipating a reward. It's not just the reward, but the unpredictability of one. Sometimes we could land on a video that we absolutely love, and sometimes we could land on a dud. Just like on a slot machine, sometimes we could win nothing, and sometimes we could hit the jackpot. This idea is known as intermittent reinforcement. It's what makes gambling so hard to quit, and social media so dangerous. Additionally, there are no stopping points, no chances to consider what you're doing, no clocks to see how much time has passed. You say to yourself, just one more video, over and over and over again. Humans have unit bias, and instinctual need to complete an entire section or unit of a given task, which means that we like checkpoints in places that make sense. But with an infinite scroll, there are none. So whenever you do finally get off of your phone, it feels like you haven't completed something. But it's a paradox, as the only way to finish is to repeat the endless cycle. Fast forward to 2009, and Facebook was met with a problem. There was only one way for users to get feedback on their posts, and that was through the comments. The issue was, they were all more or less saying the same thing. Great, awesome, fantastic, liked it. Wait, what was that last one? Facebook designer Justin Rosenstein had an idea. An idea to give users a quick estimate of their content's acceptance or popularity without having to read through the usually similar comments. Rosenstein stayed up all night, designing the prototype for what today is the like button, a single number that expresses how many users supported a post. Rosenstein claims that his intention was simply to spread positivity online. However, for many today, the like button has morphed into both a status symbol and a measurement of self-worth, especially for teenage girls. A metric such as a like hijacks a reward system, because like a slot machine, every time we visit social media, our post may have gotten more attention. And again, the unpredictability is addictive. Sometimes there are likes, and sometimes there aren't any. This is amplified by sites such as Instagram, who intentionally hide likes from users before releasing them in large batches for a big hit of dopamine. Likes have become such an integral part of the internet that I think we sometimes forget there was a time when they didn't exist. I don't necessarily believe likes are a bad thing, although the pursuit of them can inspire some very bad behavior. The problem is that many, especially teenagers, internalize them when they absolutely should not. We are naturally wired to highly value approval from our peers, because throughout most of human history, that was the difference between survival and death. Compared to most animals of our weight and size, humans are pathetic. We don't have sharp teeth or large claws, and we aren't particularly fast either. Humans only survived in the wild by being in small groups. If you were rejected and thrown out of the tribe, it was certain death. We have the same social instincts today as we did back then, only the consequences for not fitting in are far less severe. It feels horrible to be rejected, or on social media not to receive likes, because your brain irrationally interprets it as you dying. The truth is, validation on the internet rarely translates to validation in the real world, yet our brain still believes that it does. Those are the main two, but I'd like to share some additional honorable mentions that still play a part in keeping us using these sites. Number 1 is the snap streak. This is unique to the app Snapchat, and is basically a metric that says how many days in a row you've sent a picture to a friend. There are ways to redeem them, but generally, if you miss a day, your entire streak with that person is gone. These keep us coming back because obviously we feel a commitment to return to the app and keep our streaks alive. There's an added social pressure as well, because we don't want to disappoint our friend and be the one to break the chain. While it may cause you to log on only for that purpose, with the other techniques we just discussed, they can easily keep you there. Next is one that I barely thought twice about, but in recent years has become incredibly normal. What I'm talking about is the feature that allows you to see when someone has read your text. Most everyone knows that the person who sent them a message can see whether or not they've read it. So again, this creates a social pressure to respond to whatever they're asking immediately, even if it's not that urgent. The concept of leaving someone unopened or unread has become a real social slight. And in my opinion, it's over a completely unnecessary feature. They're stealing our privacy, our time, and our focus for the sole purpose of keeping us on their platforms for just a little bit longer. So it's hopeless then. With their income directly tied to your attention, they have every incentive to keep you hooked. Not to mention, all this is completely legal and encouraged at younger and younger ages. Short of government intervention, something that seems increasingly unlikely, these companies' addictive strategies will not change. However, it's up to us as individuals if we want to give in. When I first started writing this section of the video, I thought of sharing a few quick tips that I've heard from others on the internet, some of which have helped me. Things like not using your phone as an alarm clock, downloading timer apps to track use, and blocking notifications from addictive sites. However, after reading the book Digital Minimalism by Cal Newport, I'm convinced that if we truly want to overcome social media and other digital distractions, we need to shift our entire mindset toward them. It's clear to me now that many of the distractions we're faced with on a daily basis are simply too alluring to beat with a quick tip or an easy solution. Their addictive qualities were crafted in boardrooms and have millions of dollars in research behind them. Let's face it, it's an unfair battle between our primal brains and these ultra-wealthy companies with an insane amount of resources. Newport argues that to rise above it, we must become, as he calls it, a digital minimalist. We live in a world of digital maximalism. We have this FOMO, this fear of missing out. And so we spend hours online, keeping up with friends, celebrities, co-workers, and classmates. Keeping up with the latest in news, fashion, trends, and technology. But a digital minimalist isn't bothered by any of that. They use technology only in ways that serve their interest, not the interests of billionaires. They stay connected in other ways and keep up to date through alternative means. Instead of doom scrolling news on social media, which is known to show a very extreme or misrepresented view of the world, a digital minimalist may sign up for a couple of respectable online or physical newspapers and read through them every Saturday morning. Instead of liking the post of an old friend they miss talking to, a digital minimalist may ask them if they want to get together and go out to lunch to catch up. This stuff sounds so easy. Just over a decade ago, it was the norm. Although we've shifted so far away from that norm, it's important we realize that we can always go back.
On your mark, get set. We're riding on the internet.
Okay, maybe not that far back. Newport suggests what in today's world seems like a radical strategy. A month-long break where we eliminate all optional technology from our lives. Optional technology defines any apps, websites, or digital tools that are delivered through a screen and are meant to entertain, inform, or connect you. This is an important distinction, as not checking a work email for a month will probably get you reprimanded at best and fired at worst. And something like an electric toothbrush is hopefully not ruining your life. The point of the 30 days isn't just to abstain from careless technology use. The point is to experiment, make mistakes, and find alternatives to scrolling TikTok, binging TV shows, or playing video games. We need to reclaim leisure in our lives through the use of high-quality activities. High-quality activities do not involve a screen or endless consumption. They could be things like going for a walk, playing board games with family, reading, cooking, and so much more. They should be activities that provide you energy, that clear your mind, that give and not take. When the 30 days is up, it's crucial not to immediately revert to your pre-detox state of unregulated technology use. Instead, you must start with a blank slate, gradually reintroducing technology if it fits a certain criteria. You must consider whether or not it adds value to your life and determine how you will maximize that value. Most of us sign up to a site such as Instagram for genuinely good reasons. We want to stay up to date with friends and family in faraway places. We want to share our work with the world and see the work of others in our field. Those are both great, but then stick to it. Use that technology for those reasons, and only those reasons. I want to preface that digital minimalism and intentionality with technology is far from easy. You will slip up and fall back into old routines. Part of the thought behind the 30-day detox is that once you get through it, you'll be more resilient, and your chances of giving up will go down drastically. There are also downsides. Something they talked about in the book is that when you stop using social media, your circle of people will feel a lot smaller. But you'll also discover that followers don't translate to real friends. You'll find out that you only maybe have 10 to 15 people you're actually close to in this world. Wow, that got depressing, but it's worth it. When you try and live a focused existence, life just becomes more exciting. If you had a fun scale that measured fun on a scale of 1 to 10, scrolling social media or playing video games would probably be like an 8 or a 9. So how can something simple like having a conversation with a family member, which is probably like a 4 or a 5, even compare? I think that's why for many, life seems hopeless and mundane, because the activities they're doing on a daily basis can never compete with the unnatural stimulation of an app or a game. But when you stop cramming your brain with dopamine, even simple things can seem so much more fun and interesting than you ever remember them being. This newfound satisfaction can also bleed into our productivity. The reality is that most of the things that get us ahead in life are not that exciting to do. Stuff like doing your taxes, studying for a test, or working a job. Especially then when you put these other activities into the equation, they just pale in comparison. Even for me, making videos, something that I love doing, can be extremely boring sometimes. But it's those who are able to face the boredom that typically find success. The standard for focus is the lowest it has ever been, as the modern attention span is less than that of a goldfish. The unfortunate truth is, even the tiniest shred of focus will put you ahead of the majority of the population. But you may ask, what's the big deal? What if I don't mind being dependent on my devices? What are the consequences of this careless technology use? Well, I think we've seen over the last few years just how harmful it can truly be. Gen Z is the most anxious, depressed, suicidal, and unhappy generation, despite on average having more access to food, entertainment, and material possessions than any humans who have ever lived. There are a lot of factors to blame for the poor mental health of teens. For one, we're on the other side of a global pandemic, one in which kids were isolated from friends, stuck in their homes, and unable to attend in-person school. Secondly is that mental health is getting more attention now than at any time before. For years, those with legitimate mental health disorders were swept under the rug, and talking about your feelings was not encouraged. That's changed, which is fantastic, but it also could be a reason as to why the data is skewed. But more than anything, the primary reason for the poor mental well-being of teens is undoubtedly social media. Modern teens are constantly connected. They are forced to compare themselves to others almost every moment of every day. Humans, and especially teenagers, are meant to have time to switch off, but with this level of technology use, there is no time for that. It's a big reason as to why anxiety, something that was rarely heard of before the 2000s, is now reported in 1 in 3 teens. These problems are not coincidences, nor are they character flaws. They are the direct result of a distracted existence, one where an algorithm, a made-up reward, or a wealthy company is in control of your next move. We call it a free market, but what about when human attention is the product? And these are the results. I made this video and changes in my own life because I was afraid. At the end of their lives, everyone, whether they admit it or not, has regrets. Things they would have done differently if only they had the chance. And I think for my generation, our regrets are going to be about all the time and energy that we wasted on things that ultimately didn't matter. We're forgetting how to be bored, how to interact with others in the real world, and deep down, we're forgetting how to be people. But as I've said, it's important to know that you don't have to give in. There are people out there that aren't mindlessly spending hours in front of screens. There are people that are using technology for the right reasons and happily missing out on everything else. There are people that, despite everything, still have the ability to focus in a world doing anything but that. I hope to be among them, and I think you should too. A portion of this video was based on the book Digital Minimalism by Cal Newport. I've started my 30 days of intentional technology use, and although it hasn't been easy, I've already seen many benefits. It's mind-blowing how much more time I have to spend with the people and on the activities that I care about. If you're interested in reading the book for yourself, I have left a link to it in the description of this video. Whether you're planning on doing a full 30 days away from distractions, or even just trying to be more intentional with your technology, I would definitely check it out. With that out of the way, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.